Hi team, so let's start with our next step. What we already did, we know how to use LLM and what is LLM, that's what we had seen. And we also installed and downloaded the LLaMA and we had used it in our command prompt. We set up the LLaMA and we did our first chat as well. Just for a quick revisit, I'll show you what actually how LLaMA can be used, right? Once you install it, right? So for using llama we are using Ollama, right? So now if I want to check what or llama model we have, what I can do, we can use Ollama list. This will show me all the llama model that I have. Now whichever llama model that I want to use, I can do what, I can just use it like this: Ollama run and then the model name, right? So that particular model will activate it and I can make use of it. So let's see how it will get activated and thereafter we'll see how can we use it. It is still running, right? Once it will be activated, we will give it a prompt. Let's say I'm giving it a prompt here. So it will also greet me as a hello, right? Hello, it is nice to meet you. Is there something I can help you, or would you like to chat, like that, right? And thereafter, if I want to close it, I can use bye. Okay, this is what we had seen. Now the next step that we are going to work upon is we will try to use Ollama API with Python. Okay, now question is why it is required, because every time it's not possible that you can use Ollama on your command prompt. Suppose you have to create a software, you have to create a website, you have to create a web app, right? So there you want your user to interact, because you'll not ask your user to come to your command prompt and use it. Okay, you have to create a UI through which user can interact, user can use your LLM model, right? So for the purpose, we have to create a software. For creating a software, we need a programming language. So here we are using what? Python, right? So what are we going to do now? We will work on this part. We will use Ollama. We'll use llama in Python code via API, API of Ollama, right? So for that, we need the Python 3.8. It should be working. Ollama should be working. Ollama is already working. We have checked just now. We require Python, and then we also require a library called requests library. This is a library also we required. You must start Ollama API in serve mode. That means we have to start like this: Ollama serve, right? So when we run this command, what will happen? This will start a local API server. Okay, like this, right? That means if it will be executed, okay, we can call the llama model. Okay, we can call the llama model for our use case using this local web address, which will act as a API for us. All right, so this is what we are going to work upon. So by the end of this particular journey, what we will have, we will know how to send the prompts. Okay, so we already know how to send the prompts, but here we'll know how to send the prompts to llama from Python script. Okay, from Python script. Okay, this is what we'll see. Second, we will receive, right? We'll receive and print AI generated. Okay, whatever the AI will generate. Okay, it can be text or anything, responses as a output. That means we give a prompt, then AI will generate something, we'll receive and we'll print it. And third thing that we will do over here is what? We'll build a reusable function. Okay, we'll build a reusable function to generate output. Okay, to generate output, right? For any given input. Okay, these are the things that we are going to cover here. My name is Vipul and I will be the instructor for you. All right, so let's see how can we do all these things. So to do these things, first of all, we need to go to our command prompt. All right, so let's move to our command prompt. Okay, here. Okay, and here we will start Ollama serve. Okay, so it is showing me this thing, that error listen TCP. That means Ollama server is already running. Okay, how can we check? We need not to run it once again. Okay, we may have executed earlier, that's why it is already running. If it is not running, it will show you that it started running. But since it is already running, we can just cross check it. We'll copy this thing, we'll get back to our web browser. Okay, and in the web browser we'll paste it over here and check if it is running or not. That's good. Ollama is already running, so we need not to do anything. Okay, we just need to do next what? We need to install one library, which is your requests library. As I told you, this request library is required. Okay, this is required to make a request to the Ollama or LLaMA API. Okay, so if I want to call the Ollama API, I need this library to be installed. So I'll get back over here, type pip install requests. Okay, this is a Python library that should be there in our system. All right, so let it be installed. Okay, so it will take some time to get installed, and thereafter we will start writing the Python script. All right, so it will take some time, few seconds to get installed. Let it be installed, and thereafter we work on the next part, isn't it? So it get installed. Once it installed, thereafter I will start my notebook where I can write my Python script, right? So Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook is already installed in my system, which I'm planning to use for Python scripting. So once I will start my Jupyter notebook, I will get an interface where I can write my Python script. You can use other kind of interface as well, like you can use VS Code or you can use conventional Python IDE. It totally depends upon you which IDE you are more comfortable. Okay, I'm going to use Jupyter Notebook because it is more beginner friendly. All right, so let it be done, and thereafter I'll show you how can we continue. All right, so I get the Jupyter Notebook like this. Okay, I just need to create a new file where I can write my scripts. I'll click on new and then Python. So it will give me a new interface where I can write my Python scripts, right? So here I'll write the Python script, and here I'll give it a name. Let's say LLaMA Python 1. Okay, this is your first file with Python, so 1. Now, the first step over here is what? We have to import requests. Okay, so that requests, because to use Ollama, what I need to make a request. I need to make a request to whom? I need to make a request to this particular IP address. Okay, then only I can make use of Ollama, which is controlling LLaMA, right? That's why this library is required. So I'll just import it and check if it is working or not. If it will work, then I will go for the next part. So next we have to create a prompt. So ask your prompt. Okay, this will define your prompt. Thereafter, we will next thing that we do what? We'll send a post request to Ollama APIs. Okay, and thereafter we'll do what? Last step is what? We'll extract and print the response. Okay, it's a very simple application that we are going to create. So here let me give a prompt. Okay, so prompt will be equals to, let's say I'll give it a prompt like explain. Okay, explain what machine learning is in simple terms. Okay, this is what we'll do. Now I have to send a post request. So for that, we'll use our response is equals to, right? So whatever the response will come, I want to store over here. So to generate the post request, I will make use of this guy, because right now I don't have any browser. It's not like that in the browser address I can put the IP address or I can call API, right? Here program will make a call. So how can a program will make a call? Program can make a call with the help of request library. So post, and thereafter what it requires, it needs to call the API over here, right? So which, let me just copy this entity from here. I'll copy it, right? And I'll get back to my this development window, and here I will just define it over here. Okay, here I need to make a call, and then I have to give API slash generate. Okay, this thing I have to add it over GENERAT. Spelling should be correct. Okay, thereafter I have to give the prompt. So for giving up the prompt, I need to define JSON. This should be given in a JSON format. Okay, so JSON, all right. And thereafter we'll define what? First thing that I have to define model. We are defining JSON, and here when we define model, we can just choose a model over here. So how can we choose the model? So to choose the model, we can go to our command prompt, right? And in the command prompt, I can give some command over here, such as Ollama list. Okay, so I get the list of model, right? So once I get the list of model over here, I can pick any model from here. Let's say I want to use Llama 2. So I'll pick it from here, and we'll get back to our coding environment. Okay, and here I can define it Llama 2. That means I want to use Llama 2. If you want to use Llama 3, you can use Llama 3. It's totally up to you. So once your model is defined, next I have to define the prompt. Okay, so what is prompt over here? The prompt that we have already defined here. So let's call the prompt. All right. So now when you execute this program, this part will execute and we'll get the response. I just need to print the response. Okay. So print over here, Llama says, okay, and I can give a new line over here, right? And I will print response, whatever the response that we got, dot JSON, because the response will be in the JSON format. Okay, if I'll not give JSON, then what happened? Let's see. Let's execute it first. Okay, and then we'll make the changes. So it is executing, and most probably it will call for your API. It will give the prompt, generate the output, and we'll see the output over here. Right. So let's see what output are you getting. Wait for a few minutes. It may be taking some time to start, because when we run in kind of a command prompt also, it takes some time to activate your LLM model. First time execution may take some time, but after that it will run more quicker. All right, so we get a response 200. That means everything is working good. Now we'll just use over response.json. Okay, so whatever the output that is there, okay, that is actually in the form of JSON. So when we run JSON, actual output will be it will just show you the actual output generated because of this prompt. So let's wait for a few more seconds to get the output over here. So we got the response, but here we are getting an error. Now what this error actually means, extra data lines to column 1, right? So this error is because of this particular API that we are calling, right? What it actually means, just try to understand this thing, very important. All right, see, when you are trying to call this API, okay, you had given a prompt to this guy. Okay, so when you had given the prompt, what exactly happened? This thing is generating the output, okay, that's for sure, but the output is generating is streaming output. Okay, what it means, let me try to explain you like this. All right, just stay down for a minute, I'll show you. See what exactly happened. Okay, see, when you are calling API slash generate, okay, what you call API slash generate, right? Thereafter, this particular thing actually streams the output. It streams output. What it means, streams output. See what I told you in last kind of when I was explaining LLM, how LLM model behaves, how it generates the text. It generates a text word by word. Okay, first, like suppose I'm asking what is machine learning, so it will first generate machine. Based on this word, it will predict the next word, learning. Okay, is a process. Okay, so it's like, it will just try to predict the next word with the help of initial information it is having. Okay, that means this is kind of a streaming. So to do this thing, it will returns multiple lines of JSON. Okay, line 1, line 2, line 3, and each line of JSON will have one information. Like in the first line, it returns machine. In the second line, it returns learning. In the third line, it returns is. In the fourth line, a. Fifth line, process. Okay, and so on. Right? So it will just return multiple lines of response, multiple lines of JSON, and one per chunk of text, right? And the request library, that means the JSON method that we are using. Okay, what we are using, we are using .json. Okay, you can see over here we had used it .response.json. Okay, this response.json, right? This response.json method actually expects one valid JSON object, but we are not getting one valid JSON object. That's why we are getting this error. All right, to understand this thing, let's do one thing. Let me just copy this whole code from here. Okay, and we'll paste it over here. Okay, and thereafter we'll try to print a raw response. Okay, what we'll try? We'll try to print the raw response. Let's see what is raw response. Okay, so raw response. Okay, that then after we can fix out the error. All right, so print raw response. All right, this is very important to understand how things work. So for line in what response, okay, since we have multiple JSON responses, so we will iterate through each line. So for line in response dot iter lines, okay, that means we want to iterate through each line. Print line. We can just use line, but it may be encoded, so we can use dot decode, and we can use UTF-8 algorithm for decoding it, right? You can also try it by just printing line and check how is it working, right? Thereafter, we'll try to execute this thing. Okay, so I have executed it, and with this execution, you will comes to know that what kind of response actually this LLM model is generating. And based on that response, we will reconfigure our code to make it work, right? So let it be generated, and thereafter we'll see how things works. It is connecting with our LLM model to generate the output, right? Still checking something. Let's wait for a few seconds. So now you can see the output. First, it printed raw response. Then this is your first line of JSON, okay, in which it just go for new line. Okay, then second line of response just created or generated the word machine. Then next word learning. Then next word is. Then next word is E. Then A, right? A type of. So if you see, machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence, and so many things are there, right? So it just predicted or generated word by word, isn't it? So to generate the complete response, okay, if I want over here the complete response, what we want? We need to iterate through each line over here and pick this information from here, and we'll combine them to form the full sentence. Understood? So let's see how can we do it. For doing it, we have to write the logic over here, which can iterate through each line and find out the required word or required information or relevant information and put it into the put it into one single sentence, right? So let's copy this whole code, paste it over here, and we know whatever we need to do, we have to do over here, right? So now we'll say if line, that means if line is existing. Do one thing, we'll just write the logic in try and except, so that if there is any error, it can easily catch the error. Okay, so what we do, try what data is equals to JSON dot loads. Okay, so we are making use of one library called JSON. So we also need to import JSON over here. In case if it is not there in your system, you can install it by using pip install JSON. Okay, if it is there, it's good. If it is not there, then just install it pip install JSON. Okay, so now JSON dot loads. What I need to load? I need to load this guy line dot decode this thing, right? So it will just load each line one by one. Okay, and from that line, it needs to pick what? It needs to pick this particular information called response, right? So we will see that if if response, this is a key. Okay, this is a key representing the word, right? So that's why we are saying if response is there in what? Data. Okay, if response is present in data, okay, we will do what? We'll print data response. We'll just print the response from the data, isn't it? And by default it will print in new line, but I don't want in new line, I want in a single line. So I'll use over here and is equals to a space, so that first word will be printed, then there'll be a space, then second word, then a space, then third word, then a space, right? And in case there is any exception, so I'll say this thing, except exception as err. What I say, I'll print the exception, print err. Sounds good. So based on this, let's try to execute and check what happened. Okay, so I'll execute this line of code now. So here I'm getting an error because of this semicolon or colon is missing. Now I executed it, and now I expect it to generate the whole output in a single line. So let's wait for a few seconds and we'll get the output over here. So we get the output. You can see the complete description. Machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence that enables computer system to learn and improve their performance on a task without being explicitly programmed, right? So it has generated the output which is expected from it. All right. So, but if you see the response before going ahead, if you see there is a space between IM and this one, imagine, right? Same way, there are so many words which are not complete, like K is over here, ND is over here, right? So it is why this is why it is like this. It is because we are using a space over here. Okay. So if there are this may be one token and this is another token, right? So we don't want it like this. So we'll not use any space over here. So thereafter, this will be considered as a single word. And here also I'll make a change. Llama saves. Okay. And then I'll ask it to generate the output, right? So let's execute it once again and see how it working. Now, if you see, the response is more structured, okay, and we get the result over here generated from this Llama 2 model, okay. So what we had seen how can we write logic through which you can give the prompt we have already defined here, but what kind of output it generates? It generates multi-line JSON. So as it is generating multiple JSON objects, so we need to iterate through each JSON object. If we iterate through each JSON object, then we can pick the response or each word from each line, and thereafter we can combine them and make use of it. Next thing that we'll work on is what? We'll try to create a reusable function, okay, that can be reused wherever we want to trigger our prompt. Okay, so let's see how can we do that. For doing that, first of all, obviously we require these two libraries, request to generate the request or to generate a post request to our API JSON to read the JSON object. Then we create a function def, let's say query Ollama. Okay, now to generate a query, what we require? We require prompt. Next, we required model. So let's say default model LLaMA 2, LLA LLaMA 2, okay, LLM Meta AI. full form, and then we'll give the host. So what is host? Host is over here. This is the host that we are calling, right? So I'll just copy this entity and we'll paste it over here. So in case when you have to change it, you can change it whenever you want. Okay. And thereafter we have to give the complete thing over here, but I'm getting, okay, now it's better. Now here I have to give the logic. Okay. So I'll write few things in the comment. Okay. So that in case if anyone is using it, anyone can know that what information to be given, prompt, model, or whatever. It's always good to document your code. Okay. Because in future, if you're looking at your own code, sometimes we don't understand what we did. So it is always good to document it. So I'll just write a comment like this: sends a prompt to Ollama, OLLAMA, Ollama's local server. Okay, and prints the streamed response. Okay, and thereafter, what are the arguments we have that we'll explain? So we have arguments like prompt, PROMPT, right? So this prompt argument will be in string form. So it is what? It is the input prompt. So I'll write the input prompt to send. Okay. Thereafter, next thing we'll have to give model. This model also requires in str string format. It is what? The model name. Okay. Right now we are using with Ollama, right? That is LLaMA, sorry, LLaMA, right? So if we, whatever the model that we want to use, like LLaMA 2, LLaMA 3, right? We can just define it over here, LLaMA 2 or Mistral, right? So Mistral also I'll cover in some of the tutorial, right? And next we need to pass over here the host. Okay, host is also a string format, that is the base URL of the Ollama server. All right, so these are the things that we need, right? So here this part is not mandatory. This is just for, you know, users should know what needs to be done with this function. Okay, or the coder should know in future what needs to be done with the function, right? Thereafter write try for proper exception handling. So in that try, what we do, we'll just use this thing. Okay, and whenever we are trying, we are putting try, we should also use our except exception as e, so that in case there is an exception, I can know that what is exact exception. So here, what I want to try this thing. Response is equals to request.post. Okay, where it should post, it can post to the API. Okay, so that API we are already passing over here, we are already defining over here as a host, right? So what we do, we'll just use over here F, that is a formatted text. Okay, and thereafter we can use over here host. Okay, just use host, whatever the host that is given as an argument, slash API slash generate. Okay, so that means from here I can remove these things. Okay, so I have to just pass the host, or you can say the API. Thus we have just passed the URL. Okay, API slash generate is already present over here. Thereafter, the next thing we required was JSON. Okay, so JSON already defined here, right? So let me just make it better. So JSON is equals to, JSON requires things like model. So model we are giving over here as a argument. We want that model can be chosen at the time of execution. At the time of execution, we can choose LLaMA 2, LLaMA 3, whichever model we want. And next we need to pass over here the prompt. Okay, so when we pass this thing, we'll get the output, right? So here, this is our response. Thereafter, we have to do what? We have to write the thing to read the response. So we'll see that if response.status code, if everything works good, that means we are getting the response. So what is the status code? It is 200. If it is not 200, that means we are not getting the response from the API. Okay, that means we are not getting the response from this URL. That means this URL is not working, or Ollama is not working. So we'll say that if response.status code is not equals to 200, okay, it means my server is not running, right? So we can print over here what? F. Okay, this can be our formatted text. We'll say error received status code. Okay, whatever the status code that we received, we can just print over here response.status code. Okay, so that the developers should know what kind of response has been generated, right? So response.status code. Okay, so let it be done. And thereafter in the next line, why it is getting slow. Okay, no problem. Now it will just print it, and then I'll ask it to return. RETU, and then things are done. Now what we do, we have to use the logic that we used over here, right? So print llama says, just print it. Okay, what llama says, llama, it's like for line in response dot itr lines, just iterate through each line. If line exists, then try for accessing the data, right? And thereafter, if response is there in the data, then print the data like this, except if there is any exception, just print the exception. Okay, and then at the end, I'll just make this thing over here. Okay, and then we want a clean view, right? So what we do at the end over here, I'll print a new line. Okay, print /n. Okay, why are we doing it? We are doing it for clean new line after full output. Okay, the purpose of this thing. Okay, and then we have an exception that whatever the exception is, if these things are not working and we got an exception, so that exception will be printed over here. All right, so things are done. Okay, we have created a reusable function. Okay, this is our reusable function, right? So I'll copy this thing. Okay, I'll execute it, getting some error over here. What error are we getting? If line, right? So here is an indentation error. Okay, so this thing should be like this. Let's make it correct. Okay, put it with a proper indentation. Now I hope things will work. In case if it will not work, we'll fix it. Now we'll call this function over here, and these two things are predefined. We can use a default value, no need to do anything. Now I'll just use over here a prompt. Okay, what prompt I can give? Let's say, what can you say about global warming? Okay, so now we need not to execute this thing again and again. Okay, just call this function and then trigger it. It will generate the output based on the logic we defined. So when I execute it, it will make use of everything that we have defined within the function and try to generate the output. So let's wait for a few seconds. It will generate the output, and thereafter we'll discuss further. So we get the result as we expect. Okay, so it is just printing the output. Suppose we want it to return. Okay, why returning is important? Suppose if you want to create a user interface or kind of a web app, right? So in those cases, you want the function should return the outcome so that that output can be stored in a particular variable. Right now, I can't store it into any variable. Okay, but if I want to store it into particular variable, what we want it to return something, right? So if I want it to return something, what I will do here, I'll define a variable as a full response. Okay, this full response is something which is right now blank, nothing is there. Okay, thereafter when it is generating the response, like here, if response in data, right? So here the full response I'll take from here plus equals to what? The data response. All right. Okay, so I just store the response into a full response variable, right? And when everything is done, okay, at the end, what can we do? I can just before over here print, okay, here I'll say return full response. Okay, right. And now we don't want to print it, so I can just comment it as I don't want to just print it, right? So now if I execute this thing done, and then this one I'll do what? Result is equals to this one. Okay, that means I want to store the outcome into a particular variable. And here what I do, I can give some other prompt. Let's say explain how neural network works. Okay, so I'll execute it, right? So once I execute it, the outcome will be stored in the result, and thereafter we can print the result. So let it be done, and thereafter we will print the result. So you can see it is printing what only Llama says. Okay, why it is printing Llama says? Because this is what we didn't comment it. Okay, we had not commented, right? Now the output is in the result, so I can just print it. So print full response. Okay, and then I want a new line /n. All right, and thereafter I will print over here result. Okay, so let's see what happened. It will just print the result that we want. Okay, so it is saying a neural network is a computer system inspired by structure and so many things, right? So we had seen how can we create a reusable function that is created to return a response, and that response can be stored in a particular variable. And now we can easily create our user interface where output can be shown, and this will also work offline, okay, without internet, right? So next we'll go ahead with our some mini project. That means we'll try to work on customizing the prompt and run some mini project. This is what we are going to see next. So first practice this thing, finish this thing, let me know if you find anything which is not working, right? And anything for you which is not configured well, we'll try to fix those problems. Put your thoughts into the comment. Thank you everyone. Stay tuned for the next step.